Today's been a really interesting day, and this comment, in my opinion, kind of, in a sense, almost caps it off in a weird way. This user put a comment here on one of my videos where I just titled, Xbox cannot blah, 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 blah. It was kind of a random one of those, generic titles based on some PlayStation fanboy claim. And in the content of my video, I pointed out something, but this user, Klaus12012, said, it's not jealousy at all. That's a conclusion you assumed. Now, you wonder, what are they even talking about? Well, in that particular video, I cited this PlayStation Plus subreddit thread where somebody said, anyone else extremely jealous between the difference in quality between Game Pass and PlayStation Plus recently? And that's what I did. I cited that these folk are claiming jealousy. And this person said it's not jealousy, it's a conclusion I assumed. I assumed it, but my eyes are seeing it, hence, I'm just making it up, according to this person. But all of you can bear me witness as I refresh the link that it says not just jealousy, but extremely jealous. So if we had a jealousy scale, okay, this jealousy that he's citing is the one on the extreme end on the scale. Now, some people have actually said, VG, it's actually not necessarily jealousy, it's envy. And I'm like, oh, okay, my bad. I was just going with what the guy said, and I was saying what he said. He's the one that's feeling it. He's the one that's writing it, and it's an opinion, right? So I guess perhaps he misdescribed what he was feeling. So if we take away jealousy and swap it to envy, we'd still be on the extreme end of envy. However, that's not even the semantics that's there. What is very fantastical is that I'm being told that it's not jealousy, but it's a conclusion or assumed. That's claim number one. Claim number two, they said Xbox giving away new games is causing prices to rise and game companies not making money. Okay. Now, when I go ahead and say, let me examine to see if Xbox is, number one, giving away games. Last we checked, they are actually requiring that you actually subscribe to play these games. So they're not necessarily giving away these games. You're paying a subscription fee to be able to access these games. So that claim has now found itself in the gutter. The second is that game companies are not making money. So this claim, if we wanted to put it in context, is probably saying that those on the Xbox Game Pass are not making any money. The one thing that they failed to do is provide us with any tangible evidence to tell us that how these folk are not making any money. But if we look and examine the what the evidence brings, we actually have the blueprint on how developers get paid from Xbox Game Pass from an article written by Eddie Makuch where he cited a Verge long-form interview about Microsoft's Xbox where Phil Spencer explained exactly what they do with developers from the third-party side, developers within ID at Xbox, and so on and so forth. That's two claims, or 2.5 or 2.9 claims, whatever it is, that this person has made, nothing to back it up. The last one, they said, people on Game Pass don't support games they love. This is very interesting because how am I supposed to believe you when you've made two claims that are absolutely horrendous? One, you tried to gaslight me to tell me that my eyes are not seeing what my eyes are seeing, that it is me who is actually in a mirage. That's the first thing you tried to do. The second thing that you tried to do was you made a claim whereby not citing any evidence or anything, and there is a contrary depiction of what's going on to that effect, and then you made another claim saying that Xbox gamers are not supporting the games that they love. How do I handle this? We need to go ahead and take a look at what's going on here. Number one, I think Game Pass truly is a threat, not just to PlayStation, but to you PlayStation fanboys. Many of you have basically tied up some kind of an identity towards PlayStation, and you're used to seeing PlayStation basically, hold it down, kick butt, and do well. But what you're not used to is to seeing Xbox, the peasant platform, as any of you treat it, as actually being now the king in content. It's just the reality. You take a look at this freaking thing. They said browse by publishers. Oh my gosh. Do y'all remember when I told y'all that Xbox is going to bring games and beat every other publisher on the head so hard that they're not going to know what to do with themselves anymore. They're going to then feed their own users games that their gamers are going to say, what is wrong with you? We don't even have time to play these games. But I didn't envision that the other people on the other side were, number one, going to have to try to gaslight us into thinking that we're not seeing what we're seeing, or at least try to maybe fudge reality to tell us that we're concluding the exact thing that we're seeing with our own two eyes. You see, when you browse by publisher, now that's a whole different statement, right? You show up and they're like, oh yeah, we got our own publishers, Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda, Xbox Game Studios, EA in a partial partnership, Riot Games in some kind of a partnership, Ubisoft, and ID at Xbox. Oh yes, this is the indie arm where they basically go ahead and, help a lot of developers. What's even funny is Blueprints is under ID at Xbox, and Xbox let them go get that PlayStation Plus bag. Very interesting. Very interesting. In fact, in some cases, it seems like the games even have publishers, but they still get into the ID at Xbox program, depending on the size or the budget of the game. They're making money. They're making money. They're offering their games to a subscription service in exchange for a bag that they get across the board. I don't know what else to say other than I think right now, those of you that are running interference on behalf of Sony, you have to ask yourselves a very important question. What is PlayStation offering me? Because even before we jump into the whole conversation about jealousy and so on and so forth, the reason these people have enough time to even look across the aisle is because they are either not getting enough value for their money, they're not, necessarily satisfied. That's one. Or Game Pass is just too much to ignore now. Because that claim that you made, that Game Pass giving away these free games, that claim, the claim that you just made, what is your username, Clouds? That Xbox giving away games is causing game prices to rise. You know why that statement is full of horse manure? Is because Game Pass has existed and has been giving its games on a subscription service day one before we started seeing the price increases. This is the problem that we have when folk try to modify time. Why should I believe you when, even if you go ask your PlayStation talking heads like Nib95 and those others who, said that they have Game Pass subscriptions and have had it for many years. In fact, Nib95 has had an Xbox Game Pass subscription longer than some of you, and some of you have been on Xbox longer than that man. The biggest detractor of Xbox. Shame on you Xbox fans that you will let a PlayStation fanboy detractor Xbox person to have a This is genuinely funny that bro has had It's just the wildest thing I've ever heard in my life. I'm sorry, but I'm going to keep bringing this thing up because it's just shocking to me that he actually comes out and says it. He says it a lot, too. It's not the first time I've heard him actually, it's the first time I've heard him say it in terms of words, but I've seen him write about it numerous times. Oh, I've had Game Pass since its onset in 2017. And I'm like, bro, do you know the implications of what you're saying? You shouldn't even be saying it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you're going to be a detractor, that's the one thing that I would say I permit you to actually hide. Don't say it out loud so that we may at least, take you slightly seriously. But for you to have said that, and for the other folk on that podcast to have said that, that is the biggest and most damning thing ever. That's why we just laugh now. This has now become something where can we even take the time to look at the real criticisms of Game Pass? But it's hard to, because many of the Game Pass detractors just continue to provide good comedic effect across the board. And somebody comes around like this to say this kind of stuff that Xbox giving away games, they're not giving away games, a lie, is causing prices to go up when they've had this service for as long as 2017 and prices had stayed until some of these publishers started flirting with the price changes and they tweaked the prices. Come on. Do better. Peace out.